All right, so you interested in Llama 3, Meta's newest AI?
Hmm?
Well, get ready for a deep dive into their research paper
Oh,
because this thing is a beast.
it's pretty amazing.
We're talking way bigger than Llama
Oh,
2.
yeah.
Picture this, 15 trillion tokens of training data.
Wow.
That's like the entire Library of Congress times 1,000.
Really?
Compared to Llama 2's 1.8 trillion, it's like going from a bicycle to a rocket ship.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
And the coolest part, Llama 3 isn't just about text anymore.
Oh,
It understands images, videos, and even speech.
that's incredible. What's really impressive is how Meta designed Llama 3 to be a jack of all trades. They weren't content with just creating an AI that's good at one thing. They wanted it to handle a huge range of tasks across different forms of input.
Okay, so before we get lost in all the cool stuff it can do,
Right.
let's start with the basics.
Okay, sounds good.
What exactly is Llama 3 and what makes it so different from the AI we're used to seeing?
It's what's known as a foundation model. Think of it like the foundation of a house.
Okay.
It's the base upon which you can build all sorts of specialized AI applications.
I see.
And Llama 3 is built on a massive amount of data,
Right.
learning to see patterns and connections in everything from text and images to videos and sounds. This lets it adapt to tons of different tasks, from writing different kinds of creative content,
Okay.
like poems, code, and even scripts, to answering your questions in a way that's actually informative.
So it's like a super smart Swiss Army knife for AI tasks.
Yeah, exactly.
But the paper also mentions it's a dense transformer model.
Mm-hmm.
What does that even mean for someone who isn't, an AI engineer?
It's all about the underlying architecture, how the AI is actually structured.
Hmm.
Imagine a complex network of connections, kind of like a brain, but artificial.
Right.
The transformer part refers to a specific way these connections are organized,
Okay.
one that's become super popular in AI because it's great at processing sequential data like language.
Mm-hmm. Now, dense means that it uses standard math operations to handle information.
Mm-hmm.
Meta could have gone with a fancier approach called a mixture of experts model, where you have different parts of the AI specializing in certain things,
Mm-hmm.
but they stuck with the dense transformer because it's easier to scale up.
Right.
Remember, we're talking about an AI with hundreds of billions of connections.
Makes sense. Keep it simple when you're working on such a massive scale.
Right.
So how did they actually train this giant AI brain to do all these amazing things?
Well,
The paper mentions things like supervised fine-tuning, rejection sampling, and direct preference optimization. Sounds complicated.
think of it like this. You've got this incredibly talented but raw recruit,
Okay.
and you need to train them up to be a top performer.
All right.
Supervised fine-tuning is like giving them specific tasks and examples to learn from,
Okay.
kind of like drills and practice sessions.
Yeah.
Rejection sampling is more like a quality control step.
Your recruit tries out different approaches, and you point out the best ones
All right.
to reinforce good habits. And finally, you have direct preference optimization,
Okay.
where you give your recruit direct feedback on their performance, helping them align with your goals and expectations.
Okay. That actually makes those technical terms a lot easier to digest.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Now, let's talk about the bigger part of Llama 3.
Okay.
We know it's huge,
Yeah.
but just how massive is it compared to its predecessors?
Hold on tight. We're talking 405 billion parameters.
Wow.
Those are the connections in its artificial brain.
Okay.
And a whopping 15.6 trillion tokens of training data.
Wow.
To put that into perspective, it's like having a library with every book ever written and then multiplying that library by 10.
That's wild.
And compared to the largest Llama 2 model, Meta used almost 50 times more computing power to train this behemoth.
Wow. That's a serious upgrade.
It is.
But I'm guessing it's not just about throwing more computing power at the problem, right? Meta mentions these things called scaling laws. What are those all about?
Scaling laws are basically rules of thumb that tell you how much better an AI gets as you increase its size and the amount of data it learns from.
Right.
Meta figured out the sweet spot,
Mm-hmm.
the perfect balance between model size and computing power to get the best performance.
Okay.
But here's the cool part. They also found that even smaller models, if trained for longer,
All right.
could actually be more efficient when you're actually using them for real-world tasks.
So it's not just about brute force.
Yeah,
It's about being smart and efficient with the resources you have.
exactly.
Kind of like optimizing your workout routine to get the most gains.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Now, we know it's trained on a ton of data,
Yeah.
but what exactly makes for good training data in the AI world?
That's a great question.
Is it just about quantity, or is there more to it?
You hit the nail on the head. Data quality is just as important, if not more so, than quantity. Think about it. If you tried to learn a language from a textbook full of errors, you wouldn't get very far.
Right.
Meta knew this, so they were super meticulous about the data they fed to Llama 3.
The paper goes into a lot of detail about their data cleaning process.
Yes, it does.
Especially when it comes to data from the web.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk us through some of the key steps they took?
Absolutely. Cleaning up web data is like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
But Meta was up to the challenge.
Oh, yeah.
They had to filter out all sorts of junk, personal information like names and addresses,
Right.
useless website code,
Okay.
and even content that was just plain low quality.
So it's a mess out there.
It is. Imagine a team of digital detectives scouring the internet,
Okay.
weeding out the bad stuff,
Uh-huh.
and leaving only the most valuable information for Llama 3 to learn from.
Okay.
They even had special processes for handling code and math-heavy content,
Okay.
making sure it was properly formatted so the model could understand it.
So they basically built a giant super smart filter to make sure Llama 3 was getting the best possible education.
Exactly.
But how do they actually turn all that data into a functioning AI? Where does the learning part actually happen?
That's where the magic of training comes in.
Okay.
First, they break down all that text data into smaller chunks called tokens. Think of them like the building blocks of language.
Okay.
Then they use these tokens to teach the model how to predict what comes next in a sequence. Imagine showing the AI a sentence with the last word missing and asking it to guess what word should be there.
Ah, so it's like those autocomplete features on our phones.
Exactly.
On a way more advanced level.
Yes, much more advanced.
But how does it go from predicting words to doing things like writing code or understanding different languages?
That's where the initial training sets the stage.
Okay.
By learning from this massive data set, the model develops a deep understanding of language.
Right.
Grammar, syntax, how words relate to each other,
Uh-huh.
even subtle things like tone and style.
Okay.
It's like giving it a crash course in all things language and general knowledge. And once it has that foundation, you can start fine-tuning it for specific tasks.
So it's like giving someone a broad education and then sending them off to specialize in a particular field.
Exactly.
But let's talk about those special skills, coding and multilingual abilities, for example.
Right.
How did Meta train Llama 3 to excel in those areas?
Let's start with coding. Llama 3 is like a coding whiz kid, fluent in multiple programming languages.
Well,
And get this, they actually use the model itself to generate synthetic code data for training.
really?
It's like having a self-taught programmer constantly improving by learning from its own work.
So they basically gave the AI a coding challenge and let it figure things out.
Kind of, yeah.
That's fascinating. But coding isn't the only thing it's good at.
Nope.
It's also a multilingual marvel, right?
Yes, it is.
How did they manage to train a single AI to understand and generate text in so many different languages?
They had to overcome some serious hurdles to achieve that. One of the biggest was avoiding the use of machine translation,
Right.
which often introduces errors and biases.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Instead, they focused on training the model directly on multilingual data,
Okay.
using language-specific cues to guide it. Think of it like immersing the AI in a diverse language environment, allowing it to pick up the nuances of each language naturally.
So it's like raising a child in a multilingual household, allowing them to become fluent in multiple languages organically.
Precisely.
But let's not forget about its math and reasoning skills.
Oh, right.
Llama 3 isn't just a master of language.
Yeah,
It's also got some serious math chops.
it does.
Meta put a lot of effort into boosting its ability to do multi-step calculations and tackle complex problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that wasn't easy.
Not really, no.
What kind of techniques did they use to make the AI a mathlete?
They got pretty creative.
Oh,
One trick was augmenting the training data with step-by-step reasoning traces. Basically showing the model how to break down a problem into smaller, more manageable steps. They also encouraged the model to explain its answers,
okay.
forcing it to articulate its thought process.
So they wanted to understand how it was thinking.
Yes,
Fair enough.
exactly.
Okay.
And in some cases, they even gave it access to external tools like code interpreters to help it solve problems more effectively.
So it's not just about memorizing formulas. They're teaching the AI to think critically and solve problems strategically.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
But there's one last thing I'm curious about: long-term memory. The paper mentions Llama 3 can handle a massive amount of context,
Yes.
up to 128K tokens.
That's right.
That's like remembering an entire novel. How did they pull that off?
That was a major challenge.
Yeah.
And they tackled it by relying heavily on synthetic data.
Okay.
It's not realistic to have humans annotate such long chunks of text. So they used earlier versions of Llama 3 to create artificial data that mimicked real-world long context scenarios.
Okay.
Think things like answering questions based on lengthy documents, summarizing huge amounts of text, and even reasoning about complex code repositories.
So it's like building a mental gym for the AI,
Yeah.
training its memory muscles to handle increasingly complex tasks.
That's a great way to think about it.
That's incredible. But we've been talking about all this power, and I'm starting to wonder,
Yeah.
is it even usable in the real world? Is something this big and complex actually practical?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
Meta didn't just focus on making Llama 3 incredibly smart, they also made it practical.
Okay.
They knew that a model this big could be a real resource hog if they weren't careful.
Right.
So they implemented some clever optimizations to make it more efficient.
The paper mentioned something called pipeline parallelism and FP8 quantization. Can you break those down for us non-technical folks?
Absolutely. Imagine you're building a car. Pipeline parallelism is like having an assembly line where different teams work on different parts of the car simultaneously.
Okay.
It speeds up the entire process by breaking it down into smaller, more manageable tasks.
Gotcha.
FP8 quantization, on the other hand, is like using lighter materials to build the car without compromising its strength. It makes the model run faster and more efficiently by reducing the amount of data it needs to process.
So it's like finding that sweet spot between power and efficiency.
Precisely.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the sheer size and scale of Llama 3 to the data it was trained on and the techniques they used to make it efficient.
Right.
But we haven't even touched on the most exciting part yet, the multimodal aspects.
That's right. Buckle up.
Okay.
Because we're about to enter a whole new dimension of AI where Llama 3 not only understands text,
Right.
but can also process images, videos, and even speech.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's start with how they gave Llama 3 the gift of sight. Imagine trying to teach an AI to understand images. It's like trying to explain colors to someone who's been blind their whole life.
Right.
But Meta came up with a really clever approach.
Oh.
They essentially combined two separate AI models, one trained on language and one trained on image recognition, using something called cross-attention layers.
So it's like they took two experts, a linguist and an art critic, and somehow got them to work together to make sense of the world.
Exactly. The image AI, or encoder, breaks down the picture into smaller pieces, like a jigsaw puzzle.
Okay.
Then the cross-attention layers act as a translator, helping the language model understand those pieces in relation to the words it's processing.
So it's like they're teaching the language AI to see by connecting words to visual concepts.
Yeah.
But how do you even train something like that?
Remember that massive data set we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Well, they expanded it to include billions of image-text pairs.
Oh.
It's like showing the AI a picture of a cat and then the word cat over and over again until it starts to connect the two.
Makes sense. But what about videos?
Right.
Those are even more complex than static images.
Yeah.
Because they involve movement and changes over time.
Right.
How do they teach Llama 3 to understand those?
They added another layer of complexity to the model called a video adapter.
Okay.
Think of it as a time machine for the AI.
Okay.
It takes those image snapshots and learns to string them together, capturing the flow of events in the video.
I see.
It's like teaching the AI to watch a movie and understand the plot.
So it's not just seeing a bunch of still frames. It's actually learning to follow the story, the actions, and the relationships between different things happening in the video.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But we're still missing one piece of the puzzle here, Speed.
Yes.
How did they teach Llama 3 to understand spoken language?
They used a similar approach to what they did with images and video. They incorporated a speech encoder that takes the raw audio and converts it into a format the language AI can understand.
Oh, okay.
It's like translating sound waves into a written script.
So instead of reading text, the AI is now listening to someone talk and understanding what they're saying.
Precisely. But they went even further by giving the AI different ways to interpret the speech using what they call system prompts.
Okay.
It's like giving the AI instructions on how to respond.
Gotcha.
For example, one prompt might tell it to transcribe the speech into text,
Okay.
while another might tell it to translate the speech into a different language.
That's incredibly versatile.
It is.
It's like having one AI that can act as a real-time translator, a
Right.
speech-to-text engine,
Mm-hmm.
or even a voice assistant that responds to your commands.
Exactly. And they trained this speech interface on a massive data set of transcribed speech,
Okay.
translations, and even real-world conversations. It's like giving the AI a crash course in all the different ways humans speak with all our different accents and quirks.
Okay, so now we've explored the amazing world of multimodal AI with Llama 3.
We have.
It can understand text images, videos, and even speech.
It's a powerful model.
But with all this power comes a lot of responsibility. Right.
Really?
What steps did Meta take to make sure this incredibly powerful AI is used safely and responsibly?
They were very aware of the potential risks and invested a lot of effort in making Llama 3 as safe and unbiased as possible.
Right.
They knew that an AI this powerful could be misused if it fell into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
So they took a multi-pronged approach to safety and bias mitigation.
That makes sense. Can you give us a high-level overview of their approach? What specific steps did they take to make sure this AI is used for good?
They started with the foundation, the data itself.
Right.
Remember that massive data set we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, they went to extreme lengths to clean it up. Removing anything that could be considered harmful or biased. Think of it like carefully choosing the ingredients for a recipe. You want to make sure you're using the best possible inputs to get the best possible outcome.
So they were essentially trying to detoxify the data before feeding it to the AI.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
What other precautions did they take during the training process?
They used some very clever techniques to make the AI less likely to generate harmful or biased outputs.
Okay.
One of the key approaches was something called adversarial training, which is kind of like playing devil's advocate.
Okay.
They intentionally exposed the model to prompts that were designed to elicit bad behavior, essentially teaching it to recognize and avoid those traps.
It's like giving the AI a crash course in ethics.
Right.
Teaching it to identify and reject harmful or misleading content.
Yeah.
Did they do anything else to steer it in the right direction?
They also use something called reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Okay.
It's like having a team of human coaches providing constant feedback to the AI, helping it learn to produce outputs that are aligned with human values and expectations.
So it's like having a safety net in place, making sure the AI stays on the right track, even when faced with tricky situations.
Exactly.
But even with all these precautions, there's always a chance something could go wrong.
Unfortunately, yes.
How did Meta address that possibility?
They developed a really impressive system called Llama Guard.
Okay.
It's like a security detail for the AI, constantly monitoring its behavior and stepping in if it detects anything suspicious.
Oh, wow.
It's designed to identify and filter out potentially harmful content,
Okay.
prevent people from trying to manipulate the AI for malicious purposes, and even alert human operators if something unexpected happens.
So it's like having a whole team of guardians watching over the AI,
Yeah,
making sure it doesn't step out of line.
precisely.
That's pretty reassuring. But with all this emphasis on safety, does it impact the model's performance at all? Is it still as powerful and versatile as we've been discussing?
That's a great question, and it's one that Meta wrestled with throughout the development process.
I bet.
The good news is that they managed to strike a remarkable balance.
Okay.
Llama 3 is still incredibly powerful and versatile, capable of handling a huge range of tasks across different modes of input.
Right.
But it's also significantly safer and less prone to bias than its predecessors.
So it's like they've raised the bar for responsible AI development.
Yes.
Showing that you don't have to sacrifice safety for performance.
Exactly. And that's a major step forward in the evolution of AI.
Right.
As these models become more powerful and widespread, it's crucial that we prioritize safety and ethics.
Yeah.
Making sure they're used to benefit humanity, not harm it.
Okay, we've covered an incredible amount of information about Llama 3.
Yeah.
Its size, its capabilities, its training process, and even the steps Meta took to ensure its safety and responsible use.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Okay, sounds good.
What does the release of Llama 3 mean for the future of AI?
That's the million-dollar question. And the answer is still unfolding.
Right.
But one thing is clear, Llama 3 is a game changer. It's a glimpse into the future of AI, where these models will become increasingly powerful and integrated into our lives.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
What makes it so significant in the grand scheme of things?
It's a major leap forward on a multiple fronts: capabilities, scale, and responsibility. And the fact that Meta decided to open source Llama 3 is huge.
Why is that such a big deal? What does open sourcing actually mean in this context?
It means they're essentially sharing the blueprint for Llama 3 with the entire world.
Wow.
Researchers, developers,
Yep.
even hobbyists can now explore and experiment with this cutting-edge AI, potentially leading to an explosion of innovation in the field.
It's like they're throwing open the doors to a massive collaborative project,
Right.
inviting everyone to contribute to the development of AI technology.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so exciting. The future of AI is being shaped right now.
Right.
And the release of Llama 3 has the potential to accelerate that process in ways we can't even imagine yet.
So we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
from the inner workings of Llama 3 to its potential impact on the future of AI.
Yeah.
But before we sign off, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the real-world applications of this technology. What are some of the ways Llama 3 could change our lives in the coming years?
The possibilities are mind-boggling. Just imagine personalized education that adapts to your individual learning style,
Okay.
AI-powered healthcare that can diagnose diseases with incredible accuracy,
Right.
or even creative tools that allow anyone to generate music, art,
Yeah.
or literature with ease.
It's like science fiction is becoming reality right before our eyes.
It really is.
Are there any specific examples of how Llama 3 is being used right now?
We're already seeing its impact in fields like scientific research, where scientists are using it to analyze huge data sets and accelerate drug discovery. In the business world, companies are using it to automate tasks,
Hmm.
improve customer service,
Right.
and create more personalized marketing campaigns.
It sounds like AI is becoming a ubiquitous tool,
Yes.
helping us do things faster,
Yeah.
better,
Mm-hmm.
and more efficiently across all sorts of industries.
That's right.
But what about the potential downsides? Are there any risks or challenges we need to be aware of as this technology continues to evolve?
Of course. One of the biggest concerns is the potential for job displacement.
Right.
As AI becomes more sophisticated, some jobs will inevitably become automated.
Yeah.
We need to be proactive in preparing for this shift and make sure everyone has the opportunity to thrive in this new technological landscape.
It's like we're on the verge of a new industrial revolution,
Right.
and we need to navigate it wisely to avoid exacerbating existing inequalities.
I agree.
Are there any other risks we should be thinking about?
Another concern is the potential for misuse. An AI as powerful as Llama 3 could be used to spread misinformation,
Yeah?
create convincing deepfakes,
Right.
or even develop autonomous weapons systems.
That's scary.
It is. It's crucial that we establish clear ethical guidelines and regulations to prevent these technologies from being used for harmful purposes.
It's a powerful reminder that technological advancements come with a responsibility to use them wisely and ethically.
Absolutely.
It's not just about what AI can do, it's about what we choose to do with it.
Absolutely. And that's why initiatives like the open sourcing of Llama 3 are so important.
Right.
They allow for greater transparency, collaboration, and scrutiny,
Right.
which are essential for mitigating these risks and ensuring that AI is developed and used for the benefit of humanity.
So what does all this mean for the average person?
Hmm.
How will Llama 3 impact our daily lives in the coming years?
It's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but AI is becoming more and more integrated into our lives, both in subtle ways and in ways that are completely transforming how we live, work,
Right.
and interact with each other.
Can you give us some concrete examples?
Sure.
How might Llama 3 change our daily routines in the not-too-distant future?
Imagine waking up to a personalized AI assistant that knows your schedule, preferences,
Right.
and even your mood.
That's wild.
It could curate news feeds, recommend educational content, or even suggest entertainment options tailored specifically to you.
It's like having a personal concierge.
Yeah.
Always there to anticipate your needs and make your life easier and more enjoyable.
Precisely. And as these models evolve,
Right.
they could even start playing a more active role in our creative pursuits.
Oh, really?
Imagine collaborating with an AI to write a song,
Wow.
create a work of art,
Yeah.
or even brainstorm new inventions.
It's almost like AI is becoming a partner in our creative endeavors,
Right.
expanding the limits of what's possible and pushing the boundaries of human imagination.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so fascinating. We're still in the early stages of exploring the potential of AI, and the coming years are sure to be filled with incredible breakthroughs and innovations.
It really feels like we're standing at the edge of something truly transformative with AI.
It does, doesn't it?
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting,
Yeah.
like stepping into uncharted territory.
Right.
But before we get too carried away with the future, let's bring things back to the present.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that Meta made the interesting decision to open source Llama 3.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what that means and why it's such a big deal?
Open sourcing is basically like sharing the recipe for a delicious cake.
Okay.
Instead of keeping it secret, Meta decided to make the code for Llama 3 freely available for anyone to use, study, and modify.
So it's like they're saying, hey, we made this awesome thing and we want everyone to benefit from it.
Exactly.
But why would they do that?
Well,
Wouldn't it make more sense to keep this powerful technology to themselves?
there are a few reasons why open sourcing can be incredibly beneficial,
Okay.
especially in the fast-paced world of AI.
Right.
First, it allows for much greater transparency.
Okay.
Researchers and developers can actually look under the hood,
Mhm.
see how the model works,
Right.
and potentially identify any hidden biases or vulnerabilities.
That makes sense. It's like having a team of independent inspectors examining the code to make sure everything is up to par.
That's a good analogy.
What are some other benefits?
Open sourcing also fosters collaboration.
Oh.
Instead of everyone working in isolation,
Right.
developers can build on each other's work,
Mm-hmm.
share improvements,
Okay.
and collectively push the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
It's like creating a global community of AI enthusiasts all working together to accelerate progress and innovation.
Exactly. And that can lead to some truly groundbreaking advancements.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where anyone with a good idea and some coding skills can contribute to the development of AI technologies that benefit society as a whole.
That's a really inspiring thought. But let's talk about the potential downsides of open sourcing such a powerful AI.
Okay.
Are there any risks involved in making this technology so widely available?
There are definitely some valid concerns.
Okay.
One is the possibility of malicious use.
Right.
We need to be realistic and acknowledge that not everyone who accesses this technology will have good intentions.
So it's like giving everyone access to a powerful tool without knowing how they might use it.
Right.
That could definitely have some unintended consequences.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have safeguards in place.
Right.
The open source community is generally pretty good at self-policing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still crucial to have clear guidelines and ethical frameworks for how this technology should be used.
It's like creating a set of rules
Yeah.
for the road,
Uh-huh.
making sure everyone is driving safely and responsibly.
I like that.
But beyond the potential risks, what are some of the most exciting possibilities that open sourcing Llama 3 opens up? What kind of future could this lead to?
Imagine a world where personalized education is accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or location.
Okay.
Imagine AI-powered healthcare systems that can diagnose diseases with incredible accuracy, even in remote parts of the world.
Wow.
Imagine creative tools that allow anyone to express themselves artistically, even if they've never picked up a paintbrush or a musical instrument.
It's like democratizing access to these powerful technologies,
Yeah,
empowering individuals and communities to solve problems and create amazing things.
precisely. And that's what makes the open source movement so powerful. It's about sharing knowledge,
Right.
breaking down barriers,
Yeah.
and working together to create a better future for everyone.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Llama 3.
I agree.
We've talked about its architecture,
Mm-hmm.
its capabilities,
Yeah.
its training process,
Right.
the ethical considerations,
Mm-hmm.
and even its potential impact on the future of AI.
It's a fascinating topic.
What's your final takeaway for our listeners?
Hmm.
What's the one thing you hope they remember from this conversation?
I think the most important thing to remember is that AI is a tool.
Right.
It's a powerful tool, but it's still a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
It's up to us as a society to decide how we want to use this technology and what kind of future we want to create with it.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
We do.
We need to be informed,
Mm-hmm.
engaged,
Yeah.
and thoughtful about how we develop and deploy these technologies.
Right.
And we need to make sure that the benefits of AI are shared by everyone, not just a select few.
Exactly. The future of AI is not predetermined. It's something we're all creating together through our choices,
Yeah,
our actions,
right.
and our collective vision for the future.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of Llama 3. We hope you've learned something new, sparked your curiosity, and maybe even inspired you to think differently about the role of AI in our lives. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and join us for another deep dive into the world of cutting-edge technology.